I think we're live. Yes, we are live. Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Musty Wargamers.
Season 4, Episode 8.
Yes,
hello, everybody.
And we got a returning guest, Bill.
Hello, how you guys doing?
Not too bad.
Excellent.
It's a new year, new resolutions now, huh?
That's right. That's right.
Oh,
Not
boy.
to give away one of our topics.
Yeah, it's been really busy around here. Yeah. I've caught up on a lot of my shows. I have to say that much. Christmas was awful quiet around here. Just me and my wife, I think. I think she was here. Sat around. She was upstairs through the entire 2 weeks of that, watching nonstop Hallmark channels for Christmas movies. Yeah.
Cookie capers.
Cookie capers.
That's
There you go.
what I call them.
It's like they're cookie cutter movies. It's like change the names and protect the innocent, right?
Yeah. There's these those Hallmark shows that aren't Christmas. The first ones had to, because my wife loves them, had to do with like a woman that ran like a bakery and made cookies. Yeah. But then she also solved murders and mysteries and stuff like that. And so everyone after that, regardless of what they did for a living, like it could be that they owned a pet store or they were this or they were that. I said, "Oh, you got a cookie caper on."
Yeah, my wife watched those. It's like, it's like, what are they doing? So she's solving them. I was like, so he did it. It's like, I don't know that. It's like, well, he's obviously the guy that did it. So I don't know. It's like, I already solved it. And I just watched it for 3 minutes. So.
Wow.
Dan's in the house.
Yes.
So.
My wife and I have been watching The Mandalorian, so.
Oh, sweet. I heard that that's really good.
Yeah, it's like, that means I'd have to get Disney. That would be another streaming service. And I'm like, man.
Everybody I know really likes it. And so I'm sure it's really good. But I kind of watched the first couple and I couldn't get into it. I'm sure I'm really alone in that. But everybody I know really kind of likes it. I just watched the first. I didn't even finish the first season. I just watched like 3 episodes. And it wasn't really for me. But all my friends love it. Like, yeah.
So it's like you and watching Daredevil on Netflix. Mm-hmm. You just couldn't get into that either.
Yeah, that's true. I actually, I kind of like the first season, but then the second, it kind of waned off on me. I hated Iron Fist, like absolutely. I wanted to like it so much, and I hated it.
Horrible. And
then I gave up on all of the Marvel shows because I'm a huge Marvel nut, but I don't watch any of the Marvel television. I only watch the movies.
Yeah.
No Agents
yeah,
of
that's
Shield
kind of
for
like
you,
how.
Sorry, what's that, Bill?
No Agents of Shield for you, huh?
I haven't watched any of it, although I hear that one might be a little different. That's not Netflix, is it? It's like regular television.
ABC.
Yeah,
it's on Netflix now.
It is. I should probably give that a try because it was produced by ABC. Maybe it's a little different. I don't know.
I watched every episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I liked it. There was some of the seasons were kind of wonky that sort of went south, but some of them were pretty good. I think my favorite season was when they brought in Ghost Rider.
Oh.
Yeah. With his car. It wasn't a motorcycle. He's driving his car.
Yeah.
So, the Beast. So. Yeah, I just have to show this off. Hey, Dan.
Uh-oh, 2 Kings.
Nice.
It's like now I have to start. Now I got a project I need to start working on. I need to start working on my Tomb King army and get it up to speed.
I did 2 Kings myself, but I didn't use any Games Workshop models. I went and bought ancient Chinese and painted them terracotta.
The terracotta army?
Yeah. Just use the
that would work
for the Tomb Kings, and just substituted different things, like the giant scorpions were foo dogs. The giant sphinx was a Oriental dragon.
Oh, okay.
Cool. That's
That
cool.
works. It's in the same theme.
So, for our more official intro for each person, as the special guest of the evening, Bill, if you want to talk anything, if you want to talk at all about either hobbying or gaming of any kind that you've been doing, or if you have a musty drink that you want to share, I saw you just sipping on something. You're welcome to do that.
Well, I have a Bloody Mary here.
There you go.
Bloody, does she pop out when you say Bloody Mary 3 times?
So because it's a mixed drink, it's not special. It's Kirkland flavored.
Costco special.
There you go. That works.
So,
Wait, that's good.
so for hobby wise, I started putting together some Viking warriors from the Viking starter box for Saga from Gripping Beast.
Nice.
Some plastic ones.
It's like Mitty Wormit just said he's building those while he's watching us right now. Back one.
So it's a 4-point starter box. That's a plastic one that I got years ago. And then because my wife just bought me all these armies for Saga. And then lo and behold, I have to, I'm in an embarrassing situation that my wife has purchased more miniatures this year than I have. I don't know how that's going to work out there, but
you better start painting.
So she's ordered what is it, 12 miniatures from Footsore Miniatures?
I think I can't remember how many were in there.
Yeah.
But there were all the shield maidens and stuff.
Yeah, those are really nice. They're
She's
really
doing
cool.
shield maidens and Valkyrie type miniatures to be the herds. Is it the herdsmen? The
Hearthguard?
Hearthguard, yeah, that's right. For her Viking army. So
Yeah, Footsore miniatures are gorgeous. They're like really nice miniatures. Yeah.
So that's where we're at. We're winning. We don't know how long it's going to take them to ship it to us. So I've never ordered through that company, so I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I told my wife, well, it's coming from England, so it could be 2 or 3 months. I don't know. So be prepared for it to be a long time.
So I started buying some locally to tie you over.
So I suggested to her that if she wants to do an entire women army, that maybe ordering from the Frostgrave Soldiers 2-pack to get some regular warriors in.
Mm-hmm.
I think those can be tooled up to look like Vikings, I think. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But
Sure.
anyways, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. So, and then gaming wise, been doing some gaming.
Well, I've jumped the rails and I'm DMing a game of Pathfinder.
Nice.
Going through the Skull and Shackles campaign. So we've been doing that for a couple of months now.
Good deal. It's still gaming for sure.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this a lot on the channel, but the lines have blurred so much between like board games, tabletop, and role playing games that it's not as isolated.
Oh, yeah. Well, we could do it over Zoom, so that makes it safe for everyone.
Cool. How about you, Rusty? So how about your gaming and your hobbying and your musty drink? Are you still there, Rusty? Now, I've never had somebody drop off while they're hosting the show. I'm really hoping he's still there. Let me see what that's all about.
I don't know.
Hang on. Rusty? I'm just going to ping him here. Okay, Rusty, you okay?
Yeah.
You just kind of zone off there for a moment, or did you have a technical difficulty?
I lost my
Oh,
Well, you lost your what?
my mic went out.
Oh, okay, okay. Well,
So
that
I
was
had
a quick recovery.
to reboot myself here.
Okay. Oh, that was fast. Good.
Did Bill, my there we go. Like that's weird.
So, Rusty, how about your holiday? How are your holidays, and like how's your gaming and your hobbying, and what's your musty drink for tonight?
Well, with Bill, I caught everything after Hello Tonight, and then after that, I missed everything. So,
Well, quick recovery at least. It just kept going while you fixed everything.
Mary.
as soon as I went to the large screen on you, I disappeared. So
Okay.
I didn't hear anything you said. It's like I had no idea what's going on.
Well, this will be uploaded. You can watch it all later.
Yeah, it's like all you're gonna hear is me in the background going beep 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 beep. Beep. And I'm like, so tonight we have Tolomadur.
All right.
I was in such a hurry, I just grabbed the first thing I seen in the cupboard. So that is my musty drink tonight, and it's going to be a hefty pour.
There you go.
So, why?
That's more than a 2-finger, right?
Well, yeah. Then let's see. What did I do? Well, let's see. We had our last show. Since the last show, the next day, Dan and I had our little game together. So we had that going on. That was good. That was a very enjoyable time together. Let's see what else. So that was an all-day affair, playing Bolt Action. Next day, we played Gaslands. And then we said we're going to be taking a 2-week break anyway, and wouldn't be back until probably this Saturday. I think would be maybe our first game back. I'm not sure. We haven't talked to each other yet. So that's pretty much it. And
your local group that you do the Gaslands with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, over the holiday break, the 2 weeks that I took off, I worked on some Gasland stuff. I think I showed this all in the video. So I got my tow truck,
All right.
and I got my police interceptor car. Got those little cars put together for a main force patrol from Mad Max. And then I got my truck with its mortar on the top.
Cool. Awesome.
So
they'll be entering the races.
Yeah. So eventually you might see a truck show up and dropping mortar bombs everywhere. It's like, oh, you're hiding behind that cover? I don't care. I can't see. I'm going to shoot you anyway. Drop bomb. So one of the fun things, you can shoot behind stuff that you can't even see. Yeah. So right now, my desk, I have a bunch of stuff I just started working on yesterday. I think that was in the video, the little announcement video for the show. I put that together. I have starting to work on some other stuff.
Just getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah, and I need to pull out all my Tomb King stuff. But the reason I haven't pulled it all out is because behind me, you can see the reflection on the game table right there. I'm down to maybe the last couple turns of that game. The Stalingrad 42, if you followed any of that, if you're into board games. So that's been going on. And the big thing with that is that I was going gangbusters in that game where I was like, man, it's like the Germans are just running away with it. And all of a sudden, it's amazing how a few dice rolls just turn things south or just slow things up. So but we'll just see where it happens with that.
Cool. Awesome.
All right.
Did you do your thing or just
No, haven't yet. I was just kind of actually, yeah. Bill, he did his, and then And it actually didn't work out too bad because just when he finished, you kind of recovered.
All right.
So for me, for my musty drink tonight, let's see if I can do this across the screen here. I have a
Wow,
nice
that is a lot.
740 ml Labatt's 50 ale that I've been saving for the New Year show, and so that's what I have. As far as I'll show the painting in a second. I'll show it on the table. But as far as the gaming goes, I've been playing mostly just stuff with the family. Like I played some Zombicide, Black Plague. We're just about finished with the main game. We kind of took our time with that, getting through all the scenarios. But we played the last scenario, and actually it didn't just so happen that we didn't beat it, and so we're going to be playing it again. So we still have one more to do for that. But that was a lot of fun. But yeah, not as much gaming. I didn't really do that much like yourself, Rusty, over the holidays. Just kind of took a bit of a break. But I have this as a bit of a slow burn that I'd started, and then I've kind of caught some speed on it. I'll just show this here. So let me just focus here. There we go. And so these are just base paint right now, really nothing impressively done, but in that sense, but I've kind of got my scheme down and I'm really quite happy. Like I'm doing them, they're Iroquois and they're Mohawks. And so I did a little more research than I've done in the past. I'll show some of my old Iroquois that I've done in the past when I show these on the channel. But as you can see, there's like a heavy amount of black and red, which the Iroquois did especially. And then what I've done here that I've never done as much in the past is I've incorporated, most of them actually have war paint. And so that's something I've not done as much in the past. And so like, just as an example here, this guy being sort of having like his whole head is actually red, where some of them I have just like their eyes and some I just have half on the top, like, a color and things. But yeah, this looks really different than ones I've done in the past. I tried to do them a little more what the accepted color patterns were for Iroquois. And so, yeah, I'm really kind of getting into these now that I'm progressing a little bit on the painting. I haven't touched the horse, but this is the leader standing and just, and also on the horse. And actually I tended to him a little more interesting. I kind of did his bottom of his mouth. You can't see as much here, red, but then with black stripes. And so, yeah. So I'm kind of enjoying that now. I'm kind of at that stage that I'm really starting to enjoy them. I really don't look forward to just like, I hate the stage of painting over primer. I really like it once I get all the base paint on and I can start doing stuff like, like shading and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm starting to enjoy it. So yeah.
You feel like you're doing something.
Because Hulk Hogan told you to take your vitamins. Right?
Yeah. So that's about it. As far as the painting and all that, I am looking forward to doing that Mohawk for the Troop 54 that I showed, like that model that's like 54 millimeters. I'm looking forward to starting that diorama. Well, it'd be a little display. So that'll be fun. Actually, when I'm done with this project and I've kind of been painting up the native skin and like some of this like war paint and doing all this stuff, I'll just sort of ease into doing that larger miniature. That'll be fun. So yeah.
The Grand Saga, the two busts that I ordered them back in early November.
Mm-hmm.
And they got shipped from Michigan toy companies. They got shipped from there to Des Moines, and then they got shipped to South Korea.
Got the zip code wrong.
And then, well, they had to come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they had to go through customs. And then they got lost. So it's like that. Well, we don't know.
They end up in the box that we'll look at in a year from now.
Yeah. So I said, it's like, can you ship me 2 more or just refund me my money? So one or the other. So I'm kind of in limbo right now. I sent that message off yesterday. So it's like, we'll just find out what happens with that. But not too happy with the U.S. Postal Service.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's a pain. You know, I haven't had that happen to me too often. I've had it happen. I've had the same thing happen. I had where I sent something to somewhere and it ended up going like somewhere across the world by accident. And but thank goodness, I haven't had it happen too often. Like I find whether it be British, U.S. or Canadian, it's typically pretty good in my experience. I know it's kind of slowed down recently, but yeah, when that does happen, it is such a pain.
Now I just had a pack. I told you which packages I got. A package I got yesterday. It was the Black Friday sale, and they shipped it. He was like, "Okay, Black Friday sale going on." So that I ordered the stuff. They shipped it out on that Saturday after Thanksgiving here in November, and it showed up yesterday.
Oh no! Wow.
It spent all that time sitting in Georgia, and it's like sitting there. It's like, well, it's shipped from us, went to the hub that's in Atlanta, and disappeared. And then it finally showed up yesterday without showing any tracking at all. Just, hey, what's here? Showed up in my box. And like, the tracking said it did show up, but it took over a month for it to get here. And then I had another package that went into Philadelphia black hole, which Philadelphia USPS is a black hole, literally. Stuff goes in there, and it could be months before it comes out. It's like I nowadays is like after many times of that happening, I was like, where's that gonna be at? I think that's gonna go through Philadelphia. I'm not buying it.
Well, I think it has to go across Rob's desk because Rob's from Philadelphia. I think it might be that. It's possible that could be a major delay.
Yeah. So it's like I look at areas. Typically, it's like if you order something like say from Florida, it's here in days, or anywhere else in the country. It typically gets here pretty quick. But the first time I've ever seen something that came out of Georgia that took forever in a day. Normally, it's like days, type of deal, but not months.
Yeah, we just ordered the Saga main rule book and the Age of Vikings.
Yeah.
And it's coming from Portland, Oregon. So I'm not sure how long it's going to take to get to here in Arizona, but
that shouldn't take that long. You would think it's pretty close.
No, the last thing I ordered and got that from Portland, it took 3-4 days.
Rob says he has your package.
Okay, something on your desk, doesn't it? Yeah.
So
I see how that is.
So we've got a couple of our regular topics here tonight, which I think are pretty cool. At least the first one that we had posted was, I think, an interesting topic maybe to talk about because it seems to be picking up some steam in the sense of like out there and chatter. And quite a while ago, I honestly don't remember exactly when, but it seems like a year at least. I'm not really sure.
I think it was 2019 when it got announced.
Yeah, so 2019, they announced, they were kind of vague in talking about Warhammer, the old world, and it coming back. No real details of the game itself, but a lot of sort of talking about background. One of the information when it first came out, as I understood it, the main piece of information were that, the old world is coming back, that it's going to take a long time before we have it. That was really set up
3 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like 3 years. And then they said it will be square bases is one of the things they were very clear about. And they said that on square bases. And they said they announced Kislev as one of the armies. So they opened with that. Since then, a lot of information was released on Bretonia as the next piece that they're also, and they gave some imagery of maps and things like that, but really nothing more on the game itself and not necessarily committing to a timeline with it. But I think with the latest announcement of Bretonia, there's been a lot of chatter going on, a lot of people talking about it, and with that, there's a lot of wishing. I think to some degree, this is what I think it's going to be, and then there's a really fine, blurry line to this is what I want it to be, as if you actually kind of talk about what you want it to be, it'll change it, And if you talk about somebody talking about what you don't want it to be, that it's going to potentially happen, And so I want to talk a little bit about that tonight too. And so both of you played Warhammer Fantasy, and so. Given the whole thing that we all love to talk about, and that is the destroying of the old world and doing Age of Sigmar. And this isn't to replace Age of Sigmar, just to be clear, they were very clear that, there's going to be an Age of Sigmar and there's going to be the old world. I just thought maybe, we actually could talk about this and just it'd be kind of an interesting thing. There you go. Oh, wait a second. I didn't even plan this, to be honest.
Base of chaos.
I always have this by my side right now, even though I'm painting natives right now. I have it by my side, but
I need to be Mr. Fantastic.
Since we're talking about the old world, this is what I was reading over Christmas break. I wasn't hobbying as much, but I was reading this.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I so enjoy reading this. Like I can't tell you how relaxing this is to read this. And also reading all the old techniques and like some stuff that I just haven't, I don't know. I really, really loved it, but not to digress. Yeah. So I don't know, Rusty, you kind of went second for the intros. What do you think? Do you want to take a crack at this?
Well, I found it interesting is that I delved into looking at the map a little bit, last week when they announced the newest map. And it shows Bretonia, and it shows that there's orcs on there, and there's wood elves and high elves, and you can see where the empire is going to be at too. So that those are the factions that are at least going to be in there, and you can't throw Skaven out because obviously Skaven are going to be anywhere there's mountains. You're going to have orcs and Skaven, and obviously to the south you can't have anybody that isn't. You're going to have vampire counts got to be showing up there somewhere, and Tomb Kings, where there's dust. So I am looking time. So okay, it's like I keep having these things going through my head. It's like, what will they do? Will this be? They say, well, they're going to have square bases. Really? Will they have square bases, or are they? Have the round bases and you're going to throw them into square movement trays? That's the first thing that came through my head.
Bases were very explicitly said.
Well,
bases.
We're talking Games Workshop here.
True, so. True. It's possible.
Bases.
All your bases are mine.
All your bases will fit into the big square base that you move. So you can use your Age of Sigmar round bases and put them into our specialized movement trays, which have round holes in them. You just go plug them in, and then you move that around. Something a la Kings of War type thing. That's that.
However, and this is where it's your turn, but I guess we're kind of free flowing here anyway. But really, like, do you think when they do an old world, when they're releasing the old world, do you think they're going to actually use the same designs between AOS and the old world, like for miniatures?
Not necessarily.
Then what matters whether what basis one's on versus the other?
Old world, we're talking you got to go back 300, 500, 700,000 years before the big crash up end times, where they suckered us all to buy end times books, and then say, hey, congratulations, you bought all the end times stuff. Goodbye.
Yeah.
This is the grand finale of your hobby life.
Yeah. It's like, hey, thank you for the big cash inflow, and sucks to be you. So they have to, when they're talking old world, they got to go back. We're talking probably equivalent of miniatures that are going to look similar to what we found in 4th edition when it really started kicking up into the box sets and stuff. That's what I envisioned we're going to be seeing, is that, yeah, maybe they will have old style miniatures, or maybe they'll take their newest Age of Sigmar stuff and package it again with square bases. Because they used to have, like you look at the demon armies, would come with square and round bases, because they could be used for 40K, or they could have been used for fantasy. So they may go back to that concept.
If you take the 2 main releases they focused on, Kislev and Bretonia, neither of those have been focused on for Age of Sigmar, right?
No.
So neither one of those have models that they currently, unless they're going to go back and sell the old models, you know, which I don't think they would with the Kislev, but at least with the Bretonia, I don't know. It seems like whatever's coming out is probably going to be new.
New plastics, definitely, because they'll put their new spin on it, and I can guarantee you that they're going to be multi-purpose, so they can be used in Age of Sigmar, because they're not going to waste the opportunity to sell stuff for Age of Sigmar, and because they'll release it probably for the old world for the actual fantasy, and then so you can actually use it one or the other. That's what I kind of envisioned. Now, I had some other ideas what they may be looking at doing. Those that, if you remember this little thing called War Master.
Didn't we talk about this? I'm pretty sure I brought this up.
Yeah. War Master can be
my thunder.
Square rectangular bases.
Yeah.
So it may be 10 mil. It could be 15 mil.
Yeah.
So that's
I think that's a very strong possibility, given Adeptus Titanicus being released too, and the fact that they're keeping AOS.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I think it's a really strong possibility. But before I go into my thoughts on that, because that's my thought, that's against the norm, but I think is a strong possibility. Bill, I'm curious what your thoughts are overall. Like, it doesn't have to be what you think they're going to do, although that's kind of what it's led into. Also, just what you think about it and stuff too, what's been released and stuff.
I think the plastics are going to be limited. I think what's going to happen is that they're realizing that the old world is being pointed towards our generation, and they're thinking that we have more pocket change to spend than your teenagers. And I'm thinking this is going to be primarily a Forge World game. And I'm thinking that it's going to be almost all resin. They'll have probably a starter box or something like that in plastic, but that's just to get you in.
So are you thinking 28?
Yeah.
Because that's what most people are thinking. And that's what, when you say Forge World, that's what makes me think that too. I think in some ways, I think Forge World resin is nice. I don't tend to spend on Forge World because regardless of my money, regardless of what I have as far as money, I'm a kind of a cheap guy, like at heart. But at the same time, that's interesting. And what a lot of people have said to support your point is that they envision this to be like the Horus Heresy for 40K. And so a lot of people are saying, like, now initially they were saying human factions, like for that reason, like human factions against human, like Chaos and Empire, but because they've already, as Rusty said, also shown a lot of stuff, other stuff on the map, and it's really hard to say. I don't really think in the literature, as I understand it, there's as much of a focus on the Chaos human alone interaction as there is in the 40K. And so in a lot of ways, I'm not sure that they're going to go that route that strongly, like to say it's only, let's say, Bretonia and, versus Chaos or something. I don't personally see that, but a lot of, in concept though, like going back to an older rule set, because the Horus Heresy, as I understand it, is basically 7th edition and 40K. And so the idea of going a step back, like in saying this is 8th edition, let's say, Warhammer, and like we're just going to use that, we have the framework, that's a possibility, and it's just like the Horus Heresy for fantasy, It's possible. Do you have any other thoughts?
Well, I heard rumors that they're going to expand the map, so that would probably start to include other races like the dwarves, and possibly go, as Rusty said, go south. I'm thinking southwest to include the lizard men, because they're pretty well established as a race that's been around for
Very
hundreds
long
of
time.
years prior to. And what I understand is that this is a reset a couple hundred years before Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition. So they're going to have different coats of arms and stuff like that, and the Bretonnians. So it's like a reset of the entire world, I think.
Yeah. And then I guess the thought is I mean, they have went back to, and just let's say use like 2nd edition Warhammer 40K for specialist games in recent years. Like they kind of focused on that with, there was a game before Kill Team. I forget the name of it. I don't know if you guys know it, but it was sort of like that kind of thing where it was a box game and they used an older version, you know, of like rules. They could do that. They could come out with like an old Warhammer Fantasy, you know, edition and just use that and reset it that way. They could also just sort of combine a number of them, you know, and just kind of use the basic framework for Warhammer Fantasy battles and come up with like a 9th edition, you know, just something suited to the old world that they would want to use. It'd be interesting. Rusty, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just thinking that when you look at the different editions, you know, they have access, you know, all the way going way back. I would be surprised if it's like, okay, this was the best part of this edition, this is the best of that edition, that's the best of this edition, and can, you know, and spend some time actually throwing it together and maybe looking at it, because they're probably going to do one rule book to rule them all type of deal, where, you know, the money's actually for them is in the miniatures, and I wouldn't be surprised that they may not go with the whole concept of army books, but just a book of armies. That, you know, so right now, like you look at what they do in Age of Sigmar, is that every few years is it every year now or something like that, they come out when they make addendums to those armies. And everything's, you can find and probably have everything up online, so they don't have to constantly print new stuff. You don't have to go out. You just buy the new rule book and call it good, which would be a smart deal for them, you know, because they're a miniature company, so they would sell the miniatures. That could be the way to go.
Well, my thought, I mean, I would prefer they go the War Master route. So it's like what I said in the beginning, like just because you want it doesn't mean that that's at all, you know, going to be what it is. But and the main reason I will preface that, it's not because I don't like Warhammer Fantasy Battles. I actually don't believe that any new rule set they come out with for Warhammer Fantasy Battles I'm going to like better than the older editions. Yeah. And so right off the bat, I'm resigned to believe that I'm not going to like the new rule set just after seeing the rules come out over the years. It happens time and again. I think I'm going to like it and I don't. I think I'm going to like it and I don't. And so I'm pretty much resigned to the fact that if it is a new rule set for Warhammer Fantasy Battles, it's highly unlikely I won't like it better than 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battles. And so because of that, I would welcome just something different. A War Master style game, you know, would be wonderful. Like, you know, so having the old world flair and like all the old world background and the models, but just in a small and something like Adeptus Titanicus. Now, some of the things that make me believe that it's a strong possibility is that in the same way, when Adeptus Titanicus came out, they were like, this is going to come out and it's going to be a while. And then it like basically took a really long time for it to come.
Still taking a long time.
Yeah, and it was sort of dribbling out, and it's sort of a specialist game, right? And so they had this focus, and they did it, and it was doable, but it's not one of their flagship games, and that's basically how they did it. Now, this has the same sort of implementation feel, like this length of time. Whether or not Adeptus Titanicus is successful based on how much they put into it, which is a key point. I don't know. Like, I don't know how well it sold. I don't think you need to compare it to Warhammer 40K or Age of Sigmar, because how successful it is isn't compared to them. It's actually compared to how much money they put into it as to how successful it is to them. And so, you know, it's interesting. I struggle with this idea that they're going to create a big line of plastics. And Bill kind of said, yeah, like he sees resin in Forge World, and that could be the answer. But I struggle to see that they're going to create a whole nother line like Age of Sigmar for the old world that can maintain both of those with 40K. That I struggle with. And so because of that, it makes me think that doing the different miniature size and just doing a specialist game like that is more viable as a possibility. I don't think that they're going to combine designs. Like, I don't think that the new high elves that ride on sharks, you know, are going to be crossed over into the old world and like all of this stuff. Like, I don't think, you know, dwarves are going to be flying in on, you know, the airships and stuff, like with some of the newer Age of Sigmar stuff. But I mean, there may be some thought that you could use some things. I'm not really sure, but I highly think that design crossover is very viable if you're really trying to win people over into it. And so interesting, you know, if it came out to be a 28 millimeter game and the rules were really good, and in the end I ended up liking it, that would be fine. But I don't believe it for a second. Like, I have to wait and see. So.
Yeah, the first thing that came to me was that when the first announcement was like, oh, maybe they are going to bring back the 10 mil or 15 mil scale. And they could easily bring in massive amounts of different miniatures, because it's pretty easy to produce those things at that scale. There's not a lot of work details that have to be put into them. And they could sell a ton of them, just the miniatures alone. And I can see that be the way they could go that route. That's, you know, the first inclination I had. Because, you know, like you said, they don't want to have maybe some competition for the Age of Sigmar, because that's their what they call fantasy flagship right now. And go ahead, Bill.
I'm sorry. I know you guys want this to be another War Master, but I honestly don't believe that will be their direction. And the reason why, Games Workshop's never shied away from detail. I mean, if anything, they're going to have it overly detailed. And in fact, what I'm thinking is they'll do anything they can to draw people's eye away from other companies and to themselves. Because the danger of doing War Master is you're shedding light on Warlords, Black Powder, Hail Caesar, and Shot and Pike, which is the same system. And that would probably be one of the last things that they'll do.
Well, they could change it, though. They could tweak it, too. But you're right. I mean, there is a business component from a market perspective that could be interesting to see what they're thinking, you know, in that regard. That could change it. And I agree. Like, you know, there may be a marketing component to that where they would not want to.
There's also, they could be looking at, it's like they're getting a piece of this pie that we don't have our fingers in.
Yeah.
So they could just say, hey, we could maybe garner some individuals from over here and stuck them over with this new scale. But you're right, they do like to have their really fancy, gaudy looking miniature, because they say we're a miniature company first and a rules company second. And it's like everybody buys our stuff because they're collectors type of mentality also.
You know, on the other hand, there's for like the Epic Space Marine Adeptus Titanicus, there are some third-party companies making rules and miniatures that were basically knockoffs of like GW stuff. And so they came in and they just started making this stuff again, right? And so it is hard to say. Like, it's hard to say. Granted, well, and even there, I don't know what their rules were like for their game and whether the rules were a knockoff too. I'm not really sure because I've never looked that far into it. Really, it's hard to say what they're thinking. I just, it's hard to know you almost kind of like, one thing we didn't bring up, and I think it's a glaring thing perhaps, is the video game, the Warhammer Total War, which has been really successful. And so a lot of people will say literally that I was introduced to the old world through Warhammer Total War, like, and that's why I'm here looking at this, you know, like on the Facebook page. And so that component of it was a driver, I think, for them wanting to actually capture that audience. But how they do it, I mean, those video game players are not necessarily tabletop gamers. And so whether it be any scale of any kind of game, who really knows, I think it would probably need to mirror somewhat of the visual or experience of Total War, if that's a strong driver. But in order to do that, it means you got to have to go big somewhat, right? You know, and as far as like, we're not talking skirmish, you know, we're not talking about little 500-point games. Like, we're probably talking about something bigger. And so then there again, it seems kind of daunting to do 3 flagship games. And if it was another flagship game that was coming out, it would actually, in my mind, be focused on much more. And you know, not this whole like, we'll see in 5 years.
Yeah. I also think that they've been showing their business structure for the last couple of years. With many of the games that they've released in the last few years, they do just like you said. They have like a small skirmish type of game, and then later on they bring in a larger game behind it. They may be doing the same plan for Old World. They might start off with like a skirmish game with the backup game coming up 6 or 7 months afterwards.
Yeah.
Was it Blackstone Fortress or whatever the name of that? Their adventure quest game. Is that it?
Yeah, that's one of the rogue. There was a Rogue Trader Blackstone Fortress, which was like a kind of board game. It seemed like box set. Yeah.
And I could see them starting to release these miniatures to add into their Warhammer Quest style games. So, you know, you got your little module. Oh, these guys are now part of it. So you can start seeing them early. And then eventually, after you get enough interest of people into the skirmish game, hey, now we're bringing out the big fantasy mass combat game. So, hey, you already got miniatures for it. Hey, buy some more. You can start filling out your armies on our handy dandy movement trays. We got some comments here.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to have to go back quite a bit, Rusty. Why don't we start kicking through some of the comments here?
All right, was that Shadow War Armageddon?
Yeah, that was discussing where they went back to an older edition of Warhammer 40K rules to put into a new game.
They also pulled armies back from those times, the 40K recent. Yeah, it's like Gene Stealer Cult. That's a good example, is where they're taking form and fit coming from the old style miniatures and revitalizing them into something new. Fill it would be 28 mil plastic. I'm guessing the round bases will be ranked through movement trays. Their announcement said every square comes around again.
Everything square comes round again. That's interesting. That's like I feel like we're in The Hobbit, like trying to
riddle me this.
Yeah,
that's an interesting thing. It's like, I think they will be something where everything is, there might be just going with the round bases, because if they release it as a skirmish game first, they're going to be round bases, but then they'll start producing their own movement trays where you can put them in so you can rank them up. I see that is going to be one of their mechanics that they'll be doing with the mass combat system.
I guess I also wonder then who their customer is too. I mean, definitely they probably are not worried about folks like me that are not planning on buying new armies, like, and just want to use their old miniatures. Like, they're probably not wanting to cater to me, you know, just because they want to sell miniatures to somebody. But at the same time, is that true though? Because like, it sounds like we just said, like Bill said earlier, they want to also target folks, you know, potentially that this is nostalgic for. And so hard to say.
No, the problem with the nostalgia, a lot of us are getting to retirement age and we won't have the money anyway.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm not wrong. It's like
No,
those of us that were playing Warhammer Fantasy back in the late 80s and early 90s were now getting close to retirement, or have retired, depending on how old you were then. But
now, what do you think of them using the Lord of the Rings rules for this game?
that's a possibility.
I think if they're only trying to sell the visual, like of the old world, I think that would be one thing. But if they're trying to do Warhammer Fantasy, like Total War experience or the Warhammer Fantasy Battles crowd, then I thought, and maybe I know Dan mentioned one of the other things on the release, but I thought they mentioned rank and file at one point. I thought that they'd mentioned it. Now,
well,
I'm a little
it
fuzzy,
probably
but
wouldn't take them much if they could use an existing system and tweak it, change the wording some here and there, and make it work, instead of design the wheel type thing.
I really like the Lord of the Rings rules for a skirmish game. I think it's actually very good. I don't think that it's sort of great for mass combat though. Like in the sense that you can use lots of miniatures with it, in a skirmish kind of formation. But I don't, as I played it, think that it works great to capture that feel of Warhammer Fantasy Battles. But
didn't they have mass combat rules where they had those special movement trays with the circular?
I only played the basic. I only played the main game. I never played any add-on to it. And so
You
if
have
they
to
did,
ask Dan. Dan has these rules, so he'll be the guy to answer this question for us.
I know it's not the new one, but I'm talking about the old version. The first edition had the mass combat adaptation after they released all the different scenario things.
Yeah, it's possible. It seemed like well, and it wouldn't be a bad thing, but it seemed like it was fairly hero focused when I played it, like the Lord of the Rings, which would make sense. Like you want Gandalf to be able to do amazing things, like when you're playing the game. I guess there are certain editions of Warhammer 40 Fantasy Battles that have been tailored and said to be more hero focused too. And
Hero Hammer.
Yeah, that could be the case.
Yeah.
So I disagree with that. Just look at what they were doing with other games. I'm not sure where was that in the context, Rusty, do you know?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Okay, Rob will have to. Sorry, it's been a while since we were getting to the comment. We'll just have to move on.
Okay. Yeah, new rules every year. So, yeah, I mean, they did the Kill Team, and then they released the newest Warhammer. I mean, they did the skirmish version of Sigmar, and then they released Sigmar. And I think that they're gonna dip their toe in with a skirmish game and then release the main game afterwards.
I seriously think you're right there, because they will get people salivating for the skirmish, and then they have it's like, all right, we got you hooked with the skirmish. Now we're going to bring in the big game. You got the miniatures, just need more type of thing.
And because it's a couple hundred years before the Warhammer Fantasy, the old one, it'll be the flavor of the old one, but it'll have factions that probably you're not familiar with. Like they'll bring back the Kislev, but there's other factions that they got rid of, like the Halflings.
Yeah.
And they also got rid of the Hobgoblins, which are the Wolf Riders.
With the Chaos Dwarfs.
Yeah, and the Chaos Dwarves themselves would be another faction too. Being Kislev where they're at, I mean, we know of the chaos that they fought, but they're right next to the Troll Fens. They could have a troll army. Who knows? They might be planning on that.
See, the only
I could say they could easily make, if they're doing a skirmish, they can make little sub factions and make a skirmish faction easily with, a set of miniatures, and then expand upon that with the even bigger and badder monsters. And, they like their big monsters too.
Yeah, I struggle because I think they have games that already do that right now from a gaming perspective, like multiple, like some that are more board game and then some that are more like tabletop, like between AOS and some of the new ones. I can't keep up with all of the names, but they're like the ones that they're selling little factions for that are on a board game. Like I don't really even know the name of it now, but I have friends that have bought into it. I think the only way for 28 millimeter that it seemed, if you want to capture a niche population that love the old world and forget the video game like crowd that are coming in necessarily, I see the resin forge world as being a possibility, but then I don't see it being that big. Like I don't see it being that many races then, because even if you look at forge world, it will take forever to get resin armies to have resin armies in a specialist style format come out. For this, like I could see them doing 1 or 2 sides like for years, like honestly, if it's going to be Forge World driven, like in resin, but I could see it happening there, like just selling premium models and having like, you know, a sort of memory of an older rule set, like, you know, that people like and will buy into, kind of like the Horus Heresy. Like I could see that. But if we're talking like what you guys are talking now, we're going to have many, many releases and it's going to be a skirmish game first and we're going to do all this stuff. To me, it seems like, well, you kind of have that with AOS. Like, are you really going to build a whole nother wheel for this one crowd? Just duplicate everything.
What I was envisioning is that it's attached because they already have their skirmish type systems already going on. So it is just creating. You're taking the old world factions and you're creating, you're using the same engine, but you're just adding factions to it.
So you could argue then, if that's the case, then there could be cross-pollination to gaming.
Yeah.
With the models.
Yes. So you get the
two crowds you normally don't want to get together
here, and then eventually they're going to come out and they actually have this. Yeah. So they're dragging you into it by attaching you to this other system.
I can tell you that the Warhammer Fantasy Battle veterans and the AOS players are both very opinionated about their games, and they're really not two groups of people you want to bring together. In my experience, like there isn't really two sides out there right now that get along worse than those two. Now, there's actually some folks that did cross over into AOS from Warhammer Fantasy Battles and are really sort of easygoing about it and are not like adamantly against trying something new.
They're the ones that liked it because, hey, this is easier to play now. I don't need many miniatures.
In any case, but like if you go on like forums and on places, like, man, those are two groups of crowds that just immediately, the moment they find out which one their game is, they're like,
yeah.
But interesting, a lot of interesting points. We have more comments too, Rusty, or
Billy, you got something?
Yeah, I have something else. If we're gonna say wish list, I know you guys get put on your wish list, War Master, but my wish list would be a completely different direction. My wish list would be for them to bring back Warhammer Quest and make it a complete like Space Hulk type of game.
Yeah.
And then just add on to that game, have the fighting through the corridors and the different factions and so forth. And that's what I would prefer, but I know it's never going to happen.
But they did actually bring back Warhammer Quest and title it Warhammer Quest, right? You might not say it's the same. You might not say it's the same, but there's a marketing problem there. If you actually immediately, and if you come back with Warhammer Quest this soon and make it like completely different and call it Warhammer Quest, it's confusing. But if they did what you wanted to in concept and just called it something else, maybe, I don't know. Like to me, it seems weird for them to come out like again so quickly with Warhammer Quest, and again and make it different than what they just did, like which that board game basically that they did, But yeah, I mean, and in some ways to support your point, the recent what is it? I'm having a mental. I'm not remembering the board game that's coming out now that was on Kickstarter, not Warhammer Quest, but Hero Quest. Was all the rage, right? But to be fair, this announcement was way before that. Like this announcement was way before that, and so I don't think that drove it necessarily. But they may have seen marketing trends that have shown how people really want this stuff, and so maybe it would be a board game, like you said, or like they would do something like that. But
and then of course there's Warhammer Fantasy role playing.
Mhm.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
That's something that's they no longer have Fantasy Flight Games printing. What is it? Another company now that's printing it, or is it not printed at all?
Which Warhammer
Warhammer
Fantasy, the RPG?
Yeah.
It used to be Fantasy Flight, right?
But they don't have the license anymore.
They got moved to another company. I don't remember what the name of the company is.
So maybe they're just going to be making miniatures for a role-playing game. Who knows?
Possible.
We're just speculating right now. Anything's possible.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's go with this. They could use some of the same minis from Age of Sigmar, as some of the Age of Sigmar minis are actually old world fantasy models. I think they've kind of scraped them all off now, haven't they? Gotten rid of them. It would be allow Age of Sigmar people to jump right in and create. Yeah, that's what we're kind of saying, is that it'll allow, they'll have rules like, put up on their website and say, hey, download these. You can just go right into and start playing with your Age of Sigmar miniatures. But on our fancy dancy movement trays.
But then, like where I have struggled with that from a business perspective is like, we're going to invest for a primary reason to have folks jump from one of our games into the other one, but we're still going to keep that game, like it's confusing to me. But I suppose if you wanted to do it in a way where you had less work involved, like you could put less work into this new endeavor, it allows some support by bringing miniatures from your other core game in. I could see that maybe.
I think they made the big mistake is like they should have launched Age of Sigmar and you had the end times and stuff, but then come out with a Warhammer Fantasy rulebook and just say, hey, with all the armies in it, and said, there you go. If you want to continue using it, there's that rule book. We'll support you with this rule book, and then every few years come out with a new rule book that has those armies or with the new miniatures in it, type of deal.
Yeah.
And it would have been hardly any expense for them to do that.
Yeah. I don't have animosity towards the Sigmar people. I've never played the game, but I know I have an army that can be played in that game. So the Orcs and Goblins can easily fit right into that game, even though I got square bases.
However, Bill, I played it in the first iteration of the General's Handbook in AOS, and I played a Goblin Git Mob. I wanted to use my basically Warhammer Fantasy miniatures that I attained, and I didn't want to get into their new Goblin forces. I just wanted to use the plain Git Mob, which is basically using your basic goblins. And I'll tell you, they take many steps to undermine and minimize your old armies, significantly. And the first edition of the General's Handbook wasn't so bad. It was actually pretty good in that regard. But then into the second one, you notice that unless you got the newer models, like in the newer factions of Orcs and Goblins that they were putting out, that you were limited in so many different ways. And I would actually say that initially they were really pretty good about it, to get everybody in and just use your old stuff. But then you started to get kind of phased out in the power creep and just the way you could use the stuff. And so you're correct that you can technically play, but I would say that whether you could play and really be happy about the balance, I'm not so sure, unless you're buying into the new stuff. That's my personal opinion on it. But
when I started playing Age of Sigmar, it was with my undead army, my vampire count stuff, and it worked. Like you said, it worked good until the next general came out, and then it just curled in, and it's like you're fine. So.
Yeah,
that's too bad.
Yeah, well, and it was a little disappointing, but at the same time, I love my miniatures so much. I didn't care. I played, and I was I'm using those goblins for other things like Saga Age of Magic and other stuff. I like my working Goblin Army, and I'm planning on using it for 6th edition too. And so, no big deal. I wasn't out burning it or anything like that.
Yeah. 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 I just wish that
Dan.
Dan.
Yeah, Dan here says, I'm guessing that the rules will not appeal to me. I like Old Hammer already, and the models might be cool though. That's the thing, is like Games Workshop does make nice. Can't deny that. Whenever you look at it, like, ooh, nice eye candy, and then the rules show up and go, ooh, train wreck.
I don't know. I actually liked Warhammer Ancient Battles, but that's just me. I played that more often than Warhammer Fantasy Battles, even though it was just a reiteration of 5th edition.
Yeah.
But hey, I had a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Low fantasy versus high fantasy.
They're trying to appeal to the market that's looking for low fantasy.
Well, do you think that they'll make the old world pre-Black Powder?
Oh, it's like where you got the Empire has the handguns and the along with the dwarves. It's a possibility.
Yeah.
No cannons, no handguns or anything of that nature.
Yeah.
All bow, nothing but bows and that kind of nature.
So if they do that, how would they do the Empire? Because that's a major feature of the Empire Army.
Oh, the Empire did have bowmen, but crossbows, bows, and you'd have ballistas and catapults instead of cannons. I guess that'd be the thing.
I was just thinking it would be different from the Bretonnian army. More Germanic.
That was the big appeal between the Bretonnians used all old tech versus the Empire, which is using a lot of the dwarven new tech. So that was the big appeal, I guess, between them.
It'd be interesting to see if they decide to do that.
The primary competition would be Kings of War. Could be an unfair fight. I think Kings of War is pretty entrenched now.
I played it a couple times. I wasn't thrilled with that system.
Yeah, there's certain aspects. Well, I guess Kings of War is dealing with you can buy lots of cheap miniatures because they sell lots of cheap miniatures, and that's their big appeal.
Yeah, to me, it just was like, okay, I have my turn. Why don't you go out and have a smoke while I have my turn, and I do everything on my side.
Yeah.
And then a half an hour later, it's your turn, and hey, I might as well just go have lunch and then come back, and then it'll be my turn again.
Yeah.
It just seemed it wasn't engaging,
Yeah, that's the one thing that at least fantasy, Warhammer Fantasy, you got to roll dice because, hey, I got that many hits on me. Well, at least I roll my armor saves or magical saves or whatever it may be. Yeah. It did keep you engaged. That was one thing about
back too,
Yeah.
So.
Hey, you are in the house. You're in your house. It's Jesse. Hi, Jesse.
Hello.
I hope everybody's healthy. He's one of our locals.
Awesome.
All right. GW will have an advantage in that competition, I think. Yeah, it's like the 800-pound versus the ring. It's like the 800-pound gorilla versus the howler monkey, I guess. One's faster, though. One's quicker and agile. But if he gets his hands on you, be like a Wookiee. I'd probably tear your arms out of their sockets.
Yeah.
All right. I missed the announcement. Someone in chat, what is the game being discussed? Oh, welcome to the party, pal. We're talking about hopefully
The old
You're
world.
okay. Never mind. Read the. Okay, something about Age of Sigmar, Gore fantasy. Gore is actually a book series by John Norman, just to let you know. But there are Gore in fantasy, right? Ungores, Gores.
Yeah.
Mr. Gore. Okay, GW's trying to get into the Warlords epic size stuff. Who knows? Well, personally, I would like to see him go to a small scale because I like my games in 15 mil. 15 mil fantasy is actually a very nice scale to play in. You could buy lots of miniatures and you can throw a lot of them on the table. Where in the world is this on the web? I just tried to find.
Well, it's primarily announced in the Warhammer community, but you can find it on Facebook. Like there's a Facebook page for it. Most of the discussion forums and things have a little spot for it, but it's basically this announcement for the Warhammer Old World is the way that they're coining it. And so Warhammer Old World. And it's just basically fluff at this point. Very little info on how the game is going to be, that it's going to be coming. They're just releasing some artistic stuff, but they're basically telling people that we are actually going and including some, the old world as part of our gaming experiences going forward. So.
No, but instead of having the floating robe sometime, we need to actually have the robe on the show. When did you change your icon? That's new. I just noticed that. The robe. That is cool. Now that there be new Brettonians. That came out a week ago, around just before New Year's, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Somewhere in there.
Last year they did the announcement for Kislev.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There'll be a return to Warhammer fantasy. But what kind of fantasy? We don't know.
Right now, we're talking about our fantasies, about what the new fantasy will be.
They have Warcry and the 40K skirmish game to get people into 40K. Also, Age of Sigmar. I don't know if Old Hammer might be cool to see old fantasy. Like to go back before they did the Age of Sigmar, it's like 7th edition. We're thinking it probably. The timeline might go back to like 5th edition timeline when we first seen Brettonian show up. That could be the basis of the timeline and then go forward again from that. That's a possibility. Because I just think of when they actually started releasing the Brettonians on the market. Was it 5th edition? Beginning of 5th edition, I think, is when they first showed up.
Yeah. Back in the 5th or 4th edition of Warhammer Fantasy, the Empire Army was like your variety army. So you could not just do the Black Powder stuff, but you could do the Kislev, you could do the Halflings, you could do mercenary ogres, all sorts of crazy stuff in that one army. Maybe they'll do that variety pack for Empire
to try to keep people interested, just with lots of different modeling stuff. And yeah,
they really tried to expand it. Was it 6th edition is when they brought in the Dogs of War.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So you could have your core army, and then you could have the Dogs of War. So you have your mercenaries attached to it. The Dogs of War would be any type of stuff you wanted to from your other armies and say, hey, these are my mercenaries, and they're joining the pack. It's like they were considered, you could have one special unit, and that was your Dogs of War.
Well, we probably should, in the next 15 minutes or so, get to our next topic. So we might want to do some, what we call the rapid fire round of getting through the comments.
That's what I'm doing here. Version, man.
That's another way of saying speed it up, Rusty.
I'm doing it. Okay. I'm reading them. You guys probably read all these comments.
Let's go into our rapid fire round.
Yeah. Okay. No worries. Context was Rusty was saying just a big one, big army books. I like the idea of just a big army book. Look at Necromunda. They frequently updated their factions. Arabic. Yeah, there you go. New for the game. It's Shadespire.
Yeah, that's the name I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually really popular.
And then Warcry is the other. And then it's just like Kill Team, the whenever small version of Kill Team. So that's what we're thinking. What we're thinking is that when they actually bring this out, they're going to have these small little factions first, probably as part of those systems, and then they're going to bring out the new stuff. To get interest into it, and then drag them in, like the rest of people together. Big battles like Warhammer Total War, and I could see them when they start getting closer. I'm happy to stick with 5th and 6th edition, trying not to have any exceptions. Expectation.
I kind of feel the same way as Dan there. Like, I'm actually totally content just to play 6th edition, and just stick with that. I'm totally fine. But it's always fun to see something new come out.
Yeah, I'm curious of what if it's something that the miniatures themselves might be cool to have. They would have failed if they had created a bridge on that big release. Yeah, okay. Space Dwarf faction 40K is kind of the overlords. Yeah, the squats. They need to bring squats back. They do have squats in their kill team though. Okay, non-power Stormcast. Yeah. 5th edition. Oh, new. 5th edition Star had Brotonians, Lisbon. That was my first. Spent all summer mowing lawns just to buy that one box. That was a lot of lawns if you're mowing a lawn for $5 a pop.
Rob said earlier that the Bretonians were in 3rd edition at least, but he doesn't want to be that guy to correct us. I'm sure that, Rob doesn't want to be that guy. He's prefacing, I don't want to be that guy.
All right, we got through all the comments.
Cool, good deal. This has actually been a fun topic, I think. Like, it's generated, considering how little information has been shared, it generates a lot of discussion. And it's funny because as much as in the beginning we talked a little bit about the whole AOS and destroying the old world, that hasn't dominated the comments or the discussion. And really, like a number of years ago, like it would have dominated the discussion. but yeah, it'll be exciting.
I'd like to see where it goes. Because I'm a big fantasy guy. I like the Warhammer Fantasy. That was I preferred it over 40K, but I end up playing more 40K because there's more people that wanted to play 40K. And those of us that did play fantasy really enjoyed it. So when we could play it. But so I like to see where this is going.
Absolutely, me too.
All right. So let's call that one done. Moving on to the next topic. New Year's resolutions and hobby resolutions. Do they actually work? What say you? Go ahead.
Do you do them? Do you have any currently for this year, or do they work? Yeah.
Well, you want to go first, Palmer?
Sure. Do they work? For me, I would have to say overall they don't, and it might just be the way that I do them, because I did a video on YouTube for last year, and I would say that I probably approached 60 to 70% of the things I talked about on the video. Like I have this here, and I didn't do this for the show. It's sat here since then, but it's a model. This is just, it's not for wargaming, but it's a model. They call it Machirian Krieger or something like that. It's a Mac model, and it's a fantasy sort of dystopian kind of thing. And I had a number of things, including this, on there that I was going to do this. This is my thing for this year. It's sat there behind my monitor since then, and I've cycled other things in to my hobby plans, even though I said I was going to do that for that year. But I still probably, for those of people that follow this show or follow my channel, they know I use the word core game a lot of the way I define things. And I have my core games that tend not to change that often. And I do accomplish most of the goals that I set out for myself in the new year for those core games, and then I have sort of a second tier of minor games that I do that I also usually accomplish some things towards, and so I would say I accomplished some of them, but I don't know that I'm always successful. Like I always still have lingering things I don't get done, even if I do say I don't write it down and really hold myself to it. I think it's a nice thing, like whether it be our hobby or whether it be in our personal lives, like when we set resolutions, I think at times it's usually something we deem to be important. And so I think it's not a bad thing to have a time of reflection and then just a time to set a goal. And so, you know, I tend to do that sometimes at different times of the year. I think as long as I'm focusing on my priorities, you know, within hobbying, which is just all of these miniatures I want to get done for the games that I want to play, that it's helpful, you know. But if I go too far, if I add too much in there, then I find that the landscape changes within 6 months, and then it doesn't get done. And so for me, there were some people that put out some videos, and they had already said, like on YouTube, like, you know, what are going to be your like resolutions, or even like on Facebook, I've seen that. And in some cases, you know, even though I'm back into my French Indian War and I'm really creeping back and getting my head into it, I still am really strongly interested in the Warhammer Fantasy stuff. I was just painting for our last Old World Challenge. And so I've been talking about for 6th edition, like trying to complete most of my Beastmen for this year, and then starting my High Elves, like painting something for my High Elves army that I have to paint, and then doing a couple of units in my Orcs and Goblins, you know, just to beef it up a bit, that I have lots of stuff for them too. But then I know that I have a lot of French Indian War stuff to do as well. And then I do know that I actually want to paint a couple of different things elsewhere, like, you know, Infinity and like other stuff that I like. And so I think that's probably my mindset, is just to continue with the French Indian War stuff and the Warhammer Fantasy, and splash the year with a couple of other things. And if I can get that done, if I can make progress in those areas, then I'm happy in the end. So,
Nice.
What's
how about you guys?
Well, I've got a couple of different things. My New Year's resolution has been thrown at me, so to speak, by my wife. She has gotten an interest in playing Saga, and has purchased armies for me right here.
Nice.
And so my focus will be to work on these armies and get them painted and on the table. That's going to be a huge task, because there's well over 100 models here.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you'll see on the very top there, I plan on getting into that game there with my wife, Gloomhaven.
Okay. Yes.
So we can get that game going, and so we can get that as a project for this year. I know it's super simple, but that's it's a mountain of tasks to work.
I was going to say, you've got the Tower of Power of Saga boxes right next to you there, like just leaning over on you.
So yeah, we'll be getting the Saga 2nd edition rules and the Age of Vikings book soon, because they've been ordered from Portland, Oregon, through Amazon. So we'll see that in another few days, and I'll be diving into that.
We need to get more dice.
Yeah, my wife is telling me that we need to buy more Saga dice. So we have the Saga dice for only 2 factions. That's the Franks and the Vikings.
Yeah.
So we need the Saga dice for the Britons. And the Byzantines use the Franks, so that's nice. Or the Norman dice, I should say. And then I gotta get the Saxon dice. So,
Right. Have you played the 2nd edition yet, Bill?
I have not played it yet.
Okay. I will just tell you that it is really good. And I play both, and I like it better. And as somebody that likes the older version, oftentimes, I will tell you that the second edition is really good. I think you guys made a good choice. Like, I love Saga. Like, I still love to play, and I love the Viking Age Saga. Yeah, it's really good. The second edition as well.
So
And I picked up Age of Magic last year, and I wanted to get into that. So that we have all these fantasy miniatures, you might as well make good use of them into something of that nature.
oh yeah, definitely. And what's fueling this is my wife's actually showing interest in wargaming. So
Cool.
I'm gonna jump in both feet into the swimming pool there.
Do you guys like to, just as an aside, do you guys like the show Vikings?
Yes, it's her favorite show right now is Vikings. So.
Awesome, because I love Vikings too. Yeah, it's like it's good
Have
inspiration.
you watched the final season yet?
We're in the middle of watching that right now. So
Yeah, I'm like 4 episodes into it right now.
no spoilers. No spoilers. Because yeah, we're really deep into that the Viking show.
Awesome.
We watched the other Vikings TV show, The Last Kingdom, I think is.
Yeah.
Called.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
That was pretty fun. Yeah.
Barbarian, you got to go. It's not Dark Ages; it's earlier, but Barbarian on Netflix is a lot of fun too. That's
a good show too.
Yeah, it's basically the Romans versus the barbarian tribes, but it's really, really well done. And one of the directors from Vikings has actually been involved with a number of the episodes. The main director, I think, of the Vikings has been involved with a number of the episodes. So, yeah.
We started watching a show that was kind of like a Celtic show, but it was only one season about Romans in England. I forget the name of that. What was the name of that show that we watched? What's up?
Which one?
Had the Romans and the barbarians in England.
Oh, geez, I can't remember because every time it comes up on the thing, I always say, "Oh, let's watch that," and then you're like, "Oh, we already saw that."
Oh.
So I always get confused as to which one is the one we saw and which one we didn't. So.
Well, the show looks like okay. The first season is like the preamble, and then I think the show canceled.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't get into what I think. I think that they're gearing up to be a Boudica type of show, but and the main character is this little girl that doesn't have a name, so they're trying to make it that person is Boudica, and so Andrea was really
I want to
excited.
Britannia.
So now she says that she wants to do a Boudica army. So yeah, I guess we'll do Saga Age of what, Hannibal, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's
I just like the miniatures.
So we'll have to do that after we do that. Yeah, we'll do the miniatures for Boudica.
Because I haven't played it yet, so all I know for sure is I like the miniatures.
Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear her, but
yep.
okay.
You're going to be doing lots of painting.
Yes.
You'll be busy, and
So
she'll be motivating you to do it.
Oh boy. Oh yeah, definitely. So Rusty, what are you going to be up to?
Well, I always look at resolutions as you can make plans, and then when you step off the LZ into the make the first contact with the enemy, plans get blasted out of all proportions, and you have to make a new plan. Make a plan, execute the plan. Plan goes to hell. Make a new plan.
Yeah.
So, quotes that was what's his face from. Oh, not Mr. Freeze, but Captain Cold or something from. Yeah, there we go. Last year, it's like I made my plans. I wanted to work on my American War of Independence, get my British half done so I could have some games in with it. Worked out pretty good. That was highly motivating, and worked on even more to get even more of them ready for the next game. And this year I have a goal. It's like I know I have a Kickstarter coming for BattleTech. So I'm going to be very busy with that, painting up new factions of clanner stuff. So, but I don't have them in hand, so I really can't make the plans until they're in hand. So there's like that's an audible.
Okay.
But right now, I really want to work on my Tomb Kings for fantasy. Because Dan is working on his Bretonians, and so he needs somebody to beat on. So Tomb Kings might be the thing.
But you actually probably have lots of fantasy armies you could throw down
I
with.
could throw an undead army.
You're using an excuse to do your Tomb Kings, but you have like how many armies for fantasy?
Let's see. I don't have Lizardmen.
You don't have Beastmen, do you?
I have Beastmen for my Chaos army, but I don't have Beastmen army.
Yeah.
I had ogres. I got rid of the ogres. I traded them away. What else do I have? I do have Bretonians. Trying to think what I don't have
Dark
for
Elves?
factions. I think
Dark Elves? Dark Elves?
I got Dark Elves.
Oh,
Nobody can beat my Dark Elf army.
I have a very large Dark Elf army. And most of her made up of murder wenches. Wood elves. I don't have wood elves. I have a big high elf army, but I don't have wood elves. I always wanted to build a wood elf, but I was like, if I got one elf army, it's like, I got the high elves. I don't need any more. But that's pretty much is that I will still want to continue working on my American War of Independence guys, AWI. I want to start running into my colonial aspect of it. And I want to work on my fantasy miniatures. I still have some Chaos Dwarfs I want to finish. They're sitting on the desk right now, just waiting for me to pick them up and finish working on. And so, but like you said, the big one that's coming down the pipe is the BattleTech. I'm going to be inundated with a ton of BattleTech stuff coming. Some probably April or probably May.
Are we supposed to drink when you say that?
Oh, that's right.
Maybe.
Oh my gosh, it's like the first time we've said it so far. I can't believe it.
Well, I'm trying to avoid it, so I don't want to get Palmer to have to drink his entire can.
Yeah, I mean, you've almost lost me a couple of times with all the BattleTech references.
After it's like you said, I can't do the BattleTech stuff anymore. Stop it.
I can't keep up. It's too popular.
Oh man, we do have some comments. Let's rip into these real quick.
All right.
Yeah, where is it? Okay. Jesse said, my new year thing is to work on my Adeptus Custodes army and get them painted with help. That's me. I'm the guy that's the help. He'll send me a picture. It's like, well, how would you paint this? Well, I tell him how to paint it, and he said, and then play them. So that we'll need to finish painting his army, and then we could play. Was it 9th edition we're into now? I think it is for 40K. Didn't make any resolutions, therefore I can't fail any of them. This point avoided. Yes, Sean, that's a great advice. And James says, my goal this year is to start my Ancients army. I have stuff for SPQR and class appears. I need to get. That's the hard part for me is assembling this stuff. And once it's assembled, then I can get around to painting them. But unfortunately, a lot of times if I assemble them, I lose interest in them because that's like gouging your eyes out for me, assembly. I want to set up a permanent painting desk. That's another good goal, is actually having the space to work on stuff. Makes it a lot easier. There we go, Bill. Showcase that doll. Great.
Looks like you were able to create the illusion of texture on her skirt.
That's
the whole thing.
No, there you go, the other direction.
And then
doll,
there's
right
all
there.
sorts of kid dolls there too. So
Everywhere.
You know what that reminds me of? I had this image of Barbarella for some reason.
Oh, that was a horrible movie. Barbarella.
Coming and trying to eat you.
well, you know what? I collect miniatures. My wife collects dolls. I'm not going to get on her case. She's not going to get on my case.
There you go.
Then you got cases of dolls. You have a case for dolls.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, that's her hobby. So there you go. You know, happy wife, happy life, right?
That's right.
My wife needs a hobby. Her hobby is talking to me, and that takes time out of my hobby. Lagatha. Yes, she is a hottie. I have to say that. She's on a new show now. What the heck is it? It's on ABC. It's about.
So my dolls are really badass looking because they're like superheroes and villains. So they make them cool.
You're talking about Lagatha, honey.
Oh, I want a Lagatha miniature too. Don't forget.
Okay, yeah. So.
Oh, you just got paid.
What's the name of that company that makes the Lagatha miniature that you want?
Something hot and sexy or something like that. I don't know.
Hot and sexy.
Wargamers, hot and something. I don't know. I can't seem to find the actual company itself. Just on eBay.
It's on
like
eBay.
$15 each.
They're $15 each.
Crazy. But they're really awesome looking.
My wife.
There are some really cool Viking miniatures that have Lagatha in them. And I'm trying to remember the company. I can't remember it offhand, but they are really nice. Yeah.
Let's see.
40K in Star Wars Throwdown. I don't know. Everybody in Star Wars has flashlights. Painting Bretonians as you speak. He's sitting there watching the show, increasing his army as we're talking. Bolt action. Oh yeah, it's like after our last game, I did say I do have the Red Devils for bolt action, the British Paras. I actually have a large collection of Paras, and they're still in the box, unassembled. I probably maybe will be motivated to put them together now. That would be easy to do. All you have to do is go over to the house, Jesse, and we can play. I have lots of miniatures for BattleTech.
Lots of miniatures. Like you could actually field planets worth of mechs in the lore with your miniature collection.
I got like 350. Take 350 divided by 12. That will tell you how many companies. So that's almost 360, right? That's 30 companies. Divide that 10 battalions. How many regiments? 3 regiments. I got a division. I got over a division of mechs. Okay, there we go. We're good. Did the math. That ain't counting the tanks.
They're only a parsec away.
Yeah.
From wherever you are in the universe.
So yeah, it would be easy. Teach you how to play BattleTech. It's an easy game to play. That's the nice thing about it.
What did you say? What game is?
That B game. B-Tech. Assembling is my favorite part. Now that's the thing, is like we get people that love to assemble stuff, but they don't like to paint. Some of us love to paint and hate to assemble.
Yeah. I'm getting to the point that I don't start liking to paint until I have the base paint on. Then I actually like painting. Like getting to the point, like assembling, priming, and then getting the base paint is all sort of like, and then once I actually can start doing stuff like above that, like I enjoy it.
Yeah, I understand this totally. I assembled some of my Warlord Gauls right now, painting. See, that's the part I enjoy is painting. Is like the hardest part. That's the hard part. So, like I said, some of us are like. Our wiring is all crossed up.
Well, you know what? There's when you do shields, the trick is getting the stickers. You can get them from was it Little Big Man Studios?
Yep. They're beautiful,
and they'll make your Gauls pop. They will make.
It's amazing. It's like back in the day, you were forced to actually hand paint them.
So
And for the old Hammer stuff, I'm kind of going backwards and like working on painting like the really cool demon faces and stuff like on the old I'm actually trying to paint shields for that stuff. But for my Saga stuff, I use the little big men now. I started hand painting them, but I like the little big men ones, the transfers. But for my old Hammer models, I'm painting faces on them and enjoying it. It's kind of, but just sort of taking my time with it. Like it's kind of fun.
Big Sky, is it Catherine Winnick? That's her name. Lagatha is on there. Yeah. First episode, Big Sky ending was a shocker. Yeah, it was like real big shocker.
Looks like Alan has joined us. Hey, Alan.
Hey, Alan.
crazy German. Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. We have ways of making you talk. Yeah. The Viking women are done so bad by bad Squiddo games. I think
not so bad. They are done bad by bad.
Yeah.
Squiddo games.
I did show the bad Squiddo Games miniatures to my wife, and she's under the impression that they're too manly looking.
Okay.
The women should be more well endowed, more looking like a woman, right, honey?
Yeah, more like Banner.
They should have shapely curves and.
I don't want a miniature that looks like me now. Where's the imagination in that?
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to tell them apart. It's like a shield maiden. She'll look like a shield maiden, right?
I actually think that the Viking ones from Footsore that you guys ordered are pretty badass looking. Like they're I love those miniatures.
In my head.
Oh yeah, Andrea likes the Footsore miniatures too. So you got good taste.
Yeah.
Wie geht's? Was ist los? Ja, bitte. Yeah. Sehr gut, yeah. All right. So we're caught up with all of our comments. All right. Finally. All right. Halftime. All right. Back into resolutions again.
Halftime. We go in until like it's light out again.
So 15-yard penalty, too much drinking on the sideline there.
Now, a resolution that I'd like to happen, but I don't think I'll have the time to do it, but maybe it'll work, is introduce Andrea to Dracula's America and see if she likes that game.
Is that like a RPG /
No, we haven't done it yet.
What was that game we played up in Phoenix?
The game we played in Phoenix was Fistful of Dice, and that was like a horror game.
Yeah, but it had like Dracula in it.
Yeah, it did have Dracula in it, but this one is Dracula and cowboys shooting it out.
What is it with you and cowboys and samurai? I don't see the attraction.
And pirates. You gotta have pirates.
Samurai, pirates, cowboys.
I like
vampire pirates.
Vikings are cool.
Well, you like the Mandalorian, right?
Yeah, but he's. Yeah. I don't care what you tell me. He does not have anything to do with samurai.
Yes, it does. It's the same story as Lone Wolf and Little Cub. It's the same story, exactly.
Okay, whatever you say.
So I can kind of. I watched only a couple episodes, but I didn't get any samurai flair for it. So
I've watched 0 episodes, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, have you seen Lone Wolf and Little Cub?
Never heard of it.
The samurai. It's back in the 80s. It's a huge epic, and it's if you like extreme violence, then.
Great. Gratuitous violence in my movies.
Oh yeah,
like that. I remember Shogun from the 80s. I remember Shogun, the television show from the 80s.
I thought that was 90s. No, 70s. I thought it was 70s.
It might have been 70s. I was kind of young at the time. It might have been 70s.
I think it was late 70s.
Yeah.
Well, this one is basically a samurai is ordered to assassinate this child. and he decides not to. And then the entire world is against him and hunting him down, and he's protecting this child. So it's entirely same story as the Mandalorian.
I think I'm not sure if it's just me, but I think Bill has just said a whole bunch of stuff without his mouth moving. Is that just me, or is that you too?
Well, he's a frozen pitcher.
How do you do that?
Ventriloquism. Wow. That's where he's asking Bill, I think, how the saga's going. How is the saga going, Bill? The saga of Bill, the Frozen Man.
I think.
Well, at least your audio is going still. That's good. Don't worry about it, Bill. It'll catch up probably.
I don't know.
Or it'll just completely black out and you'll have to go back in.
Okay. All right. Yeah, the saga is. I just started putting together some Vikings from the plastic box set. So I got about 15 of them put together. So I gotta get back to that task pretty soon. So yeah, just starting.
I got a scenario pack for Saga. Like I'm not playing really gaming a lot at all with friends right now. But the thing is I like painting Dark Ages. I love painting Dark Ages. But I have some of the scenario packs that they did from Gripping Beast. And I have some of that stuff to paint because I'm pretty caught up on my Saga painting. But I was thinking of pulling that out too, just like the Infinity stuff, just to do some painting for Dark Ages. And when we start playing, you can bring it out. I do recommend, if you don't have it, Bill, getting the Book of Battles.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I recommend it, if you haven't already invested in it, like it is amazingly good. The amount of work they put into devising all the different ways you can play, in addition to what comes in the main rule book and the other one, it's really, really well worth it if you're thinking about it.
The Book of Battles is from Saga is what we should get, honey.
Okay, well, where do you get that? Do we have that?
No, we don't have that, honey.
You don't need it to start, like just to get the feel of the game and to start and enjoy it, but it will really kick it up a notch.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll have to look into that.
That's one of the things that's on my list to get if I ever get into playing Saga.
The Book of Battles.
Yeah, so it has it has 3 different ways you can play. It actually has, if I remember correct, it has basically a really cool.
Or, I mean, it seems like there's more than one Book of Battles in here.
Yeah, it should be just called Saga: The Book of Battles.
I think this is it.
It shows sort of like blood splatter on the regular Saga cover. Like it shows like a cover and then it shows like some blood splatter on it.
It's out of stock.
Let me take the headphones off, and that way Andrea can hear what you're saying.
No, it's fine, honey. It's fine. It's out of stock.
So it's out of stock? Okay.
At one location, I was looking. I don't know if it's the.
Okay.
Sure,
Yeah.
they got to replace.
Something to look into though, because it actually is really great. They have. Go ahead, Rusty.
I was say Jesse asked me, is do they have Saga here in Des Moines? I bought my stuff here. I have a lot of stuff. I haven't actually looked and see if they added to it, but they had Saga stuff on the shelves. And he says, I like old history battles like the Romans and stuff. That would be another faction, is the Romans and Gauls, right? Because that's another, because they have little eras that you can play the. Oh, we lost Bill back.
I'm right here. I was just trying something.
Okay. Resetting things.
I was just stopping the camera to see if that actually did anything.
You could always try going back and coming back in totally. You got
yeah.
No.
You're in a different position now. Something happened. So
the Hell Caesar, that's it. Group game comes soon. And 6 players and 12-foot table. Wow.
Oh wow.
That's a big table.
That sounds epic.
Nice. But Hail Caesar will be able to actually accommodate a large game like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So, with the resolutions thing, do you guys find that you often, like I said, like don't? Well, Rusty, you said that plans change kind of for you, like you don't always stick with it. But Bill, what is your experience in the past? Like, do you always do it and kind of? Do you set sort of realistic goals or really large amounts? Like I kind of feel like this year, even just quickly, I just set a large amount of goals with my Warhammer Fantasy painting. And then knowing how much I want to paint with French Indian War, it's a fairly full plate for the year. I almost feel like it sets a direction, but there's no way in hell I'm probably going to achieve all of it.
Yeah. I fell short of my goals last year. I wanted to focus on my YouTube channel, and that didn't really pan out. So...
Yeah, it's like focusing on one thing like that is like do other stuff and the YouTube channel will come. That's people will. It's like you find your niche where you work on. It's like one of my goals every year is to work on BattleTech stuff, and the reason for that because it's something you like Palmer. You have your core games you really love. And that's one of the ones. It's like I always like buying a few miniatures every year just to keep myself painting them, assembling and painting at least some BattleTech stuff. And I always look at what factions don't I have in BattleTech that I can expand upon. So this time, when the Kickstarter comes out, get my Kickstarter stuff, I'm going to be working on probably expanding my Clan Ghost Bear miniatures because I got Clan Wolf. I've got a big section of Clan Wolf. I want to expand on my Clan Ghost Bear, and I don't have anything that's related to House Merrick that can be used for House Merrick, which is kind of purples and stuff. So I'm thinking about doing that. That's a goal I have this year. Is like when I get my Kickstarter stuff. And I already said that I want to get back into working on kept a couple, maybe a unit, assemble a unit of colonials, be it militia, whatever, and put them together and work on them. And let's see, what else is there? Just like, there's going to be some Gasland stuff in there if we continue our campaign that we got going on. Right now, sitting on my desk, I do have some. I want a couple more vehicles for Gaslands I want to work on, and there might be a bigger project for Gaslands that will be in the works. And then I also have to definitely want to work on my the Necrons. They have to be put together and painted, add to the force of Necrons I already got, and so I can be like Nick. Any worry that you're gonna not get all that done, Rusty, or you think that's pretty realistic goals? I have a lofty goal of working on the American War of Independence stuff, but I know I'm going to fall short. I fall short every year on that. I worked overtime this year to get it ready by Dan and I's game that we had in July before the big Duratio tore everything to hell around here. But that kind of, I don't know. It's like after that event, I spent so much on my free time cleaning up afterwards that my hobby time since August has really dropped off. And also not having the fair this year put a damper in the amount of income I have coming in. So that also is a limiting factor in some ways too.
I was going to say that Bill's image that is there is actually quite good. You could even use it as a thumbnail. Like if it was me when my camera froze, it would be when my mouth is open and my eyes are looking up at a light in the corner of the room. Like that's typically whenever I land on a freeze. But like with him, it looks like he almost planned it.
He looks like he's very thoughtful there.
Yeah,
looks like he's wearing a digital camo with the modern military uniform. That's all I got to say right there. Very stylish.
Hey, there you go. Regarding Gaslands, a year ago, Andrea suggested I make a shopping mall that's post-apocalyptic for Gaslands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just thought about the possibility of just making a Blues Brothers race through a shopping mall.
Oh my God, that sounds like an awesome idea. Oh man, now I have a lofty goal for the end of the year to have a Gaslands Blues Brother shopping mall.
But
race.
if you do that, Bill, I mean, you should double duty it so you could use it for like a zombie game too. Because like honestly, that just screams like Zombicide Mall or whatever, like something like that. Like
Gaslands does have a zombie smash scenario. So you can have just like you score points by how many zombies you run over. So
well, maybe you do that in the mall scenario too, I guess.
Yeah. So what do you want to go through some of the comments, Rusty?
Yeah, we could just have a few here.
Okay.
Jesse said we could learn Saga sometime if you want to. Definitely. I have the space for it. We got some miniatures. Just need to learn how to do it. I mean, you've ordered the new American Civil War miniatures. I went to my local game shop because typically they have the magazine that has those miniatures in them, and somebody collected them all up already or bought the magazines. So I wanted to check them out, get the sprues and compare them to other 15s, just to get an idea. Right now, for me in our group, Stryker, Mel, he has so many 15 mils because he worked for Alliance Miniatures, and part of the payment he used to get was getting paid in miniatures. So he has so many 15 mil miniatures that nobody needs to buy any because I have so many that are already painted. So we just set the scenario up to play. Yeah, Nick has monopolized Necron. Definitely, Nick is the Necron guy. One of the reasons why
I discovered his channel with Eldar. Like when I was into Eldar, that's what he was doing. Like it's funny how it transformed over the years, right? He always was into Necrons, but
yeah,
I
found Nick's channel because of Eldar.
Me too.
Yeah,
when he had 500 subscribers.
Yeah, I remember when Nick had probably like 350 subscribers or something like that when I first found him, and now he's like over 22,000 or something in there.
Yeah,
it's like crazy. It was just a small fry. It's like I've gotten a few people into Gaslands just from my videos. It's a fun game, and you go to dollar store and buy a miniature for $1, which it happens to be a car that only cost you $1. And then you spend time and tear it to pieces and put it back together into something else. It's like Mike, you look at these guys and you see the little gun on top. Guess where those guns came from?
40K.
BattleTech.
Oh, BattleTech. Oh gosh.
Oh, no.
Well,
I got BattleTech on my car.
Very little left. I have like a drop left.
I mean, that entire can went into that.
I have sunk this ship and it is gone. Yeah, 750 mLs, 740 mLs, done.
750 right here, and I'm not drinking that whole thing. I'd be. It's like, why is cause of death? Alcohol poisoning.
Bill, how's your Bloody Mary?
Back to the other, Rusty is one of the reasons why I am now into Gaslands. My wife appreciates it. Hey, honey, let's check out the dollar store. Ha ha. I actually went over to Savers and took my wife to Savers, and she's like, I never get taken to Savers by you. You always say no. And I was looking at the...
Oh, by the way, you're buying the Saga Book of Battles right now.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, dear.
You're paying for it.
So,
is this the right one?
Saga Book of Battles?
I only
There's
have
only one, right?
2% battery, so I dare show you like that.
Do you want me to show you, Bill? Do you want me to show you what it looks like on screen?
Well,
Is that the right one?
Hang on.
I believe that is. Yes, that is.
So I'm checking out.
So, anyways, she saw that I was looking at Matchbox cars, and then a week later, she went on an auction website and got me like a huge box of about 100 cars.
Oh, really?
Yeah. How much did you pay for that? It was
Like
like
$5 or something?
$5.
Wow! Holy crap!
Ridiculous.
That and Savers is really good.
So, get your wives involved with wargaming.
Rusty, can you blow up my screen here?
Give me a second here.
Oh, there it is. Hey.
Let me get rid of that.
Would you? I'm not very good at telling.
Book of Battles. It's got like the axe in the front.
Hold on, let me plug this in because I only have like 1%.
Now, can that be used for just Vikings, or can it be used for like
It doesn't seem to have a
Age of Hannibal and?
This is across all ages, is what it's intended.
Okay. Oh,
I
good.
think I did something right here.
All right. Did you get it or no?
No, let me see. Oh, here we go. Okay, so now I'm not gonna die.
Okay.
I think this is it.
So let's take a look.
Hold on, how do I get back?
Hopefully you guys didn't hear me swearing when I was looking through my stack of books there.
Oh.
I'm like, oh my gosh. I didn't say oh my gosh.
That's the book there, honey.
Well, I think that's the same one, right?
Yep, that's the same one. Thanks for the tip. I appreciate it.
$20
Yeah.
for shipping.
$20. Is that a good price for it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the thing about this is it gives you like a skirmishes type scenario where you get randomness in like a different game every time you play. It has scenarios like the original one where they literally go into a tremendous amount of detail, and it's basically a very specific battle, like you would have in the original one, and they give you a whole bunch of them. Then there's also stuff where you can have multiplayer, like more than 2 players, and mass battles, and it just takes the actual game as you get it from the rule book, and it just kicks it up, like when it comes to scenarios and ways to play the game, so many more directions.
Nice.
Yeah, like it almost, in my mind, if you're really putting as much as you are into miniatures, like for it, in the number of armies, it's a necessity. Like, yeah.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that you're very much an authority when it comes to Saga. So.
Well, I like it. I wouldn't say I'm into so many different things that there's people that all they play is Saga, and I don't think I'm more of an authority than them. But like it is one of the games I've continued with and I continue to play, and I just think it's a great game. Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
So
you
it's
just
on the
came-
way.
No,
I'll say that
here. I think I'm gonna buy something else with
on Sunday, I think it was Sunday, my wife and I went over to the local store, the grocery store, because we needed to pick some stuff up, and we're going down the frozen food aisle, and they have this bin sitting right in the middle of the frozen food aisle. And I looked at it like, hey, that's all Hot Wheels. And I started looking at it and kind of ruffling through, and my wife kind of looks at it like, oh, that's a kind of a cool one. It's like, you're looking for this, like for your card game? I was like, yeah. She's like, she picked out, it's like, well, it says 4 for $5. And she was like, well, this is a nice one. Oh, that's kind of, oh, no, that one's a better one. So she picked out 4 cars for me.
All right.
So
Sweet.
I was like, all right. She said, let's put them in the cart. I can't argue.
Hey, there you go.
You know what my wife tends to do, because she doesn't usually feel confident to buy like miniatures or rules or anything like that. But if she's out and she sees stuff that she thinks I'll like to build buildings or terrain, she'll come back with like bags of stuff. Like, I thought you might like this, like, just to make ground, or like, actually little Viking houses I made that I did conversions on. She did get those actually from like Michael's, and like I just added stuff to them, and like she'll do that kind of stuff, where she'll like see stuff to make terrain and just get it for me, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, for my fantasy battles that I used to do, we have a whole bunch of little hut houses and stuff. Like they look like she picked them up at like a Hallmark cards. They were all on sale like for $1, and she bought a whole bag of them. He's like, why? She brings them home. He's like, I think you'd like these. And she's like, wow, these are cool. It's like, if they're more, so I weren't back. They were already all gone. But I was so happy because for all the fantasy games after that, it's like, oh, need a little village. There you go. It's like, thank you, honey. So
Nice. All right.
it's like every once in a while, our wives make us happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So yeah, I've been blessed because she's been so supportive of the hobby. Unfortunately, I see people that hide the hobby from their wives. So.
Well, sometimes we hide the purchases. Like, how much did that cost? Oh, that was like $5. It's like, oh, you paid that in cash? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if I would have paid that with the credit card, you would have like.
Yeah,
Well, gentlemen, I think we've kind of we've done we pretty much have, I think, nailed these two topics tonight. Actually, good topics tonight this evening. It was a lot of fun to talk about them. I was actually a little surprised that we generated as much discussion on the old world, considering how little info has been put out. But I think that's maybe why it generated a lot of like hypothetical thoughts about like what could be coming and what we think might come.
That might be a very wise thing about Games Workshop doing that, because it creates individuals talking about that. They don't have no product out really, other than a picture. And how much time have everybody been talking about it?
Yep, creating some buzz.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when the time comes, people will go, "All right, yeah."
So, all right. Well, it's been a great discussion. Thanks for everybody for all the comments, as usual. Lots of comments and great amount of discussion in the comments section. Thanks for everybody for joining us live. And we will see you likely in a couple of weeks, I would imagine, right, Rusty?
Yeah, 2 weeks. Today is what time? Let's see. This is the 7th, so it'll be the 21st. Be on your channel.
Yeah, no holidays, I don't think, so we should likely be here. Thanks,
I
Bill.
don't think we have a holiday till what? March, April, somewhere in there. So.
Thanks, Bill, for joining us again as a guest. We really appreciate it. You actually had lots of good input tonight, and I'm glad that I was able to influence your Saga gaming.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I mean, back when I first discovered your channel, you've influenced my Saga gaming from the get-go. So,
I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Maybe I'll paint up that scenario pack from Gripping Beasts I was telling you about, and I'll throw that up on the channel soon.
All right.
All right, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
See you in 2 weeks on Palmer's channel. Guys, have a lot of fun. Keep safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.
Yeah.